feeling like a shark in a shrimp tank. Big fish, small pond in the shrimp tank.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Shrimp Tank. I'm your co-host, Ted Jenkin, here with my co-host, Lee Heisman. And every week on the Shrimp Tank, we bring you some of the brightest and best CEOs and business owners and entrepreneurs in and around Atlanta and across the United States. It's why we're doing more Zooms now, because we want to talk to owners all around the country. But for many, many years, some 8 years now, we've had entrepreneurs, thousands of them, that listen to this show to get advice about how to get a balance of street smarts and book smarts and really get an MBA in entrepreneurship, because I don't matter what school you go to, if you don't own a business and get bloody and bang your head against the wall, you're not going to really learn how to be an entrepreneur. We all know that have run and scaled and sold businesses. Three housekeeping things before we get into our episode today. One, go to shrimptankpodcast.com if you want to see a preview of all the owners that we've interviewed. People from Tony Horton, P90X, Brian Dawkins, Hall of Fame safety for the Philadelphia Eagles, Dave Wazalewski, one of the founders of Spanx. So many great individuals out there that have scaled out amazing businesses. If you want to listen to the Shrimp Tank on an ongoing basis, just go to Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Stitcher, SoundCloud, iHeartRadio, Spotify, or anywhere around the internet. And Lee and I, we have a venture that now is blowing up like crazy. We are in the business of selling your business. So if you go to Exit Stage Left Advisors, the day that you want to sell your business, Lee and I know how to do two things: minimize your stress and maximize your multiples. That's what we do for business owners out there. We show you how to get this, and we've commanded some big, big money. But I'm kind of excited about today's episode, Lee, because this guy's not only a business owner, but we actually went to school together. We grew up in the same neighborhood. None of us thought we would amount to anything. Well, maybe some did. I didn't. All I know is I was drinking old Milwaukee beer and Meisterbrows and stuff like that. But Marc Streisand, he's the owner of Marc Allen Fine Clothiers. I am planning, Lee, after this, either to meet him, fly up to his shops. I'm going to get a new tux and all kinds of stuff, because you wouldn't know it by this show, Lee, but if you don't wear the right clothes, it can make the wrong impression. It can actually kill you on a deal, or it can get you the deal just by the way that you look. So thanks so much for doing this, Marc. And I want to know, how did you transition into getting into this business? Because, I don't think I met, except for a few kids in high school that actually knew what they were doing. I don't know how many kids even knew what they were going to do when they grow up.
Teddy, it's a funny thing. You're going to really laugh at this, because you may even know the kind of root cause of why this all happened. When I played on the baseball team in Hightstown, I went out with a bunch of the guys, and I was at a party, one of our infamous old Milwaukee parties. And there was a very cute young lady there, and her name was Mary, and I'll not give her last name because I don't want to get her in any trouble. And I asked her out on a date. And I said, "Oh, you're really cute. We should go out on a date together." And she did this: "You're so cute." So, as you can imagine, it did wonders for my self-esteem. And as you may remember, I was a very, very short kid. When I was a freshman in Hightstown, I was 4'10". So probably the shortest kid in school out of the 2,000 kids or 2,500 kids that we had in class there. And I came home to my mother, who was an interior, said, "Well, if that's the case, you have to learn how to dress bigger." I had no idea what she meant. So she started taking me to the Quaker Ridge Mall. And
Quaker Ridge Mall.
Throwbacks. And she started teaching me about patterns and styles and fits and all that kind of stuff. And throughout college, I worked at a men's clothing store. I really liked it. And when I graduated college in 1990, so I took the first job I could get, which was in the commercial printing business. I made some money, and I said, "You know what? I'm going to teach people how to dress." And I started a consultancy in New York City, and that's kind of what got the ball rolling.
Hey, Marc, real quick, this is an easy one for me. So you may or may not have seen this, and you can see it on the screen. Teddy, as we'll refer to him on this show today, thanks to you. Teddy has gone through a transformation in 2023. I think you, Ted, were close to 208 pounds, and effectively now he's down into the high 180s, right? We're talking 20 plus pounds here of weight loss, and also forget weight loss, Mark, but body transformation. So I get to sit around Teddy all the time, and he hears me. I buy him some clothes that are smaller.
Yeah.
But obviously, customizing a suit, I have to ask the obvious question, and I saw this on your website because I've never understood it.
Yeah.
What is the difference between a made-to-measure suit, which seems like that's the best in the top, but then there's this term called bespoke. Can you tell us about the difference?
Yeah. So, I mean, the reality is it's very, very similar process where you would come in, we would measure you, you'd pick out a fabric. The difference being is that bespoke is made right upstairs in my tailor shop by one master tailor. So he does, at least in our case, he does the drawing of the pattern, the transferring it to the fabric, the entire putting the garment together piece by piece by piece. Made to measure, on the other hand, is sent to our workroom where ours is in Italy. And there's about 16 master tailors there. And they all work on the garment together. So one person may specialize in putting a collar together. One person may specialize in putting the suppression in a jacket, which gives us what the shape. The other one may be, a master at figuring out the circumference of the sleeve based on the man's bicep and forearm. So they're very, very similar. The major difference is cost. So a garment in my place starts at around $3,500 for a suit. And when we do bespoke, it's almost double.
Wow. And do the fabrics play? I'm sorry, I'm so curious because I'm so ignorant, Mark, but you see so many stretchy fabrics, and it seems that when I've done any custom clothing, if I go up a few pounds or down a few pounds, all that work is ruined. Then there's this extreme pressure to keep your level of where you stand weight-wise.
Right.
But then you see all these new fabrics, which are more flexible and stretchy, and it gives you an ability to get heavier during Thanksgiving time. Do you lean into those?
It's very interesting. I'm not a huge fan of super stretchy fabrics, mostly because they don't keep their shape as well as a natural fiber. However, if you think about it, and Lee, I'm not sure how old you are, but I obviously I know how old Teddy is.
We're all the same. I turned 52 next week, so okay. I'm old. I'm an old man. Unlike Teddy, I got a lot of gray hair.
This is my ode to being well heeled in life. Is this great beard? In the 70s, when polyester first came out and became it's not when it first came out, but when it first became really used and put together in suits, leisure suits is what they would call them. It was a very, very dense, heavy, and thick fabric, and it didn't breathe. With technology over time, like any other thing, it expanded the ability to be able to be worn and manipulated in such a way. The great thing about spandex, and Teddy, you're wearing a golf shirt, so you may know they breathe. So we have a tendency in more of our cotton clothing to put stretch in it. So like you might have a pair of pants, and there's a difference. There's a pant is cotton and a trench. Okay, so when we talk about a pair of pants, we're talking about a cotton pant, and we'll add about 2 or 3% of stretch into them because it's a little bit more of a mobility issue where, wool has natural stretch in it. And if you think about, sheep, when they shear the sheep and they get the wool, they're able to mill it, spin it, stretch it, and give it some elasticity where you can't do so much with cotton. Okay. Now,
I thought you were going to break into the Belle Biv DeVoe song.
Oh, yeah.
As you were starting to talk about the fabric, and I'm dating us, of course, flip it, slap it, rub it down. You were going to actually run into that. I thought you were going there, Mark.
You know what? Poison is my favorite song. That Poison. However, I'm going to try to keep it a little clean here today.
Fair. Sorry to interrupt you. I just had we're just connecting because we're all from the same area.
Totally cool. So, like when I make a suit for a guy, it's very, very rare that I'll make him a synthetic suit. We have those fabrics. I don't love making them for guys because I don't like the sheen on them. You can see every golf shirt. I always tell guys, if you want to go to work in a polo, get something that doesn't shine, because nobody needs to know that you're really going to go to the golf course after your meeting. And if you're not going to go to the golf course, then the shirt doesn't belong on you unless you're going there. Okay. The worst thing in the world is to see a guy with a nice sport jacket with a, to me, it's a total
Right.
identifier that this guy has no clue about what he's doing with dressing. With that said, I can fight till the cows come home, and guys are still going to do it. I can only bring you to the water. You've got to drink it. So going back to your point though, with stretch fabrics, wool has a natural stretch in it. So and it breathes exceptionally well, 30% more than cotton. So, and it retains less water, so less moisture. So really, when I wear pants, even to golf in the summertime, if I go to a club that doesn't, I wear super lightweight tropical wool, because it's going to breathe significantly better than any of the tech stuff that's out there. And, it's going to look better. So I mean,
I'm curious in this model that, what I've seen over the years is like, there's gosh, I hate to say this, but I call them the huckster Tom James salespeople that are fresh out of college selling Cutco knives in a suit.
Yeah.
And then there seem to be, people that graduate into, I don't have a store. I'm basically like a shower curtain salesperson with a suitcase in a car, and I go to people's homes or offices. But you made the leap to actually open a retail store.
Yeah.
And why did you do it? And how does it change the business model as a whole?
Well, the first thing is overhead. Overhead, it's skyrocketing. However, I'm a big believer that you experience, and they're going to come back. And that's really our generation and up. So I would say maybe the tail end of the millennials, but definitely the Gen X's, Gen Z's, they'll get into it. The baby boomers for sure. Listen, I love having hot girls come and measure me. Why not? A great thing. And Tom James has a great business model where they have a very, very beautiful young woman who's got a couple weeks training, who's going to say, hey, let me measure you. The joke is, well, how many times are you going to measure my inseam? So I love those guys. They're great. I would call them starter kits to learn about stores like mine. To me, my store is a real experience. We have a lounge, a full bar. We've got the finest quality clothing made in the world. I mean, I have the best brands that you can get. 90% of them are from Naples, Italy. So you come in there, it's a guy's hangout. And it's not that women don't come in with their husbands and boyfriends, but this is a place where guys can chill out. It's like the old school barbershop. Remember Jim's barbershop in Heightstown?
Oh man, I do. Yes.
Your dad would take you there. You'd hang out. Eventually you're going to get a haircut, right? At some point. So our model is that come in, no pressure to buy, hang out, have a cocktail, have a beer, have a scotch. We smoke cigars right out front, and it's a real men's club type of thing. Now, when I had my first showroom in New York City, it was literally just a showroom. It was probably a 15 by 15 square box in New York City. And I put mannequins up there to dress it up as well as I could, but you couldn't do the same things. I wanted to be able to give a guy pretty much anything that he would want when it comes to getting dressed, from underwear up to a tuxedo. And having a retail store like that really enables me to give that guy not only the experience, but every kind of product that he could possibly want. Excuse me. Recently, I'm actually currently sitting in my old store because it's nice and quiet in here. And this current store that I'm in at the moment was 675, 700 square feet. In March, I opened up a 3,000 square foot place.
Wow.
Which is the antithesis of where most places are going. And I purposely did this because keeping things lean and mean is nice, but having some sort of extravagance really speaks to a lot of guys who want that amazing experience. And even though it does cost a lot more money, the variety of product that I can bring into the place to offer more people a chance to dress well was a game changer for us.
Mark, I have to ask, so I am very ignorant with the style and the clothing piece. You know what you're good at our age,
Yeah.
and I'm very good at certain things, but I'm a black t-shirt, black pants,
Yeah.
99% of the time, only because I don't have an eye. Anytime I see someone like you and I see that outfit, I start really appreciating it. I compliment, and it's very authentic, Mark, because I don't have an eye for putting it together. So for other entrepreneurs and CEOs and high-level executives that you work with, which I'm sure you do, they probably are more similar like that because their focus is their business, growth, all the other things other than style. But do you, and I'm going to date us again, but do you create, which would be appealing to me, a sort of granimals type of approach? So Teddy, I know you would appreciate that term where
I thought you were going to say like Miami Vice or something like that. Is that no?
Well, everybody wants to be Crockett or Tubbs. I mean, that depends who you want to be. But Mark, can you talk about that? Because if I were to get you to do clothing for me, I have no idea what goes with what and how many iterations you can put together. Do you do that for clients?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the funny thing is, when I was in New York City, we did a book of every combination that you could possibly go. I numbered the ties, I numbered the sport jacket, I numbered the pants, and I would say wear, fabric, I'm sorry, shirt number 1 with jacket number 25 and pant number 36. Excuse me. And it made it simple. When I moved up here to New England, which is almost 20 years ago, guys had no interest in that. And I still to this day don't understand it. However, what I always try to tell guys, especially when they first start working with me, we're not walking around naked, okay? I mean, with Teddy's new svelte body, maybe we would like that. But I can promise you I look a lot better in clothes than I do with them off. And, what I try to do is help a guy create an essential wardrobe. So like for yourself, who doesn't wear, this type of clothing often, I would create that would mix and match seamlessly. So all you need to do is go into your closet and pick out things, and they're all going to go.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you, there's certain exceptions. Take pictures. I've done, photo albums for guys, which is, people never understand that. But now with the digital age, excuse me, I can send you a Dropbox and you can just print them out if you want, or leave them on your computer or even on your handheld or tablet. So, our job is to make it easy. You do what you do. I do what I do. And why should you struggle getting dressed in the morning? We all have to do it.
Mark, what about the guy that's out there that, I don't want to say he's priced out of where you are, but he wants to start somewhere, right? He's like, wow, $7,000 for a suit. I'm used to going to Men's Warehouse or a rack somewhere. Can I just get a few shirts and maybe a jacket to start? Can you start me somewhere?
Yeah, so here, retail store allows me to give a guy much more breadth of clothing versus just making everything. So these Tom James, Bible salesman, because that's how that company started was, Spencer Bible salesman. Excuse me. The door-to-door methodology of the Cutco thing that you mentioned earlier, they do one thing. They make clothes. So their job is to sell what they make. I didn't want to pigeon myself into that. So I can give you great clothing, great fitting clothing, because we're going to alter everything. You're not walking out of my shop so that you're happy. I know that sounds like an oxymoron, but you got to work out so that I'm happy the way that it looks on you, because that's my job. And if you go out there with a jacket that kind of fits like this and say you got it made for me, that's a problem. That really ruins my reputation. So I want to make sure that it fits correctly. And not everything is $7,000 or $3,500 for made to measure. I've got a lot of things. However, we're not for everybody anymore. Gone to the day where I'm going to sell a shirt for $150. I'm not going to do that. It's just, I give the same quality of treatment to somebody. And unfortunately, it costs money to get great service nowadays.
Right.
And we want to give, exemplary service. We don't want to give half-ass, fly-by-night type work.
So let me ask this, like Lee has built and sold multiple businesses. I built and sold multiple businesses. And What's interesting, and I mean, I love what you're doing because I do think, Mark, that luxury has lost its luster. Like every woman has a Louis Vuitton bag. So how really great is Louis Vuitton anymore? But I'm curious that you build this thing and all of a sudden you're 60 years old, you're 65 years old. How do you position selling this business one day, given that you're the guy, right? You're the grand master expert. You're the visionary of the business. Do you see, as an entrepreneur about somewhere down the road about how you could sell the business and extract value out of it?
Yeah, the succession plan is probably the most important thing that I've been working on the past year and a half. So I'm 55 years old, and I have 3 young men that work all with at least 10 to 12 years of experience. So, I just say to get into this business and to get into the clothing business, you've got to love it. I mean, when I started in the printing business, they're like, oh, ink is in my blood. It was never in my blood. I sell stuff and make money. Here, I love the work that I do. So I do think I have a plan now for the next 10 years, whereas, excuse me, I've created a profit sharing program with my team, and 3/4 of whatever they get from the profit sharing goes into a fund for them to buy into the business in 10 years time. So they'll be able to have a deposit at any bank, and any bank would give them a loan at that point to enable them to be able to purchase get the money to purchase the balance of the business.
Very smart.
The interesting thing about the clothing business is no one knows where it's going to go. I mean, people said to me 10, 15 years ago, oh, the suit business is dead, blah, 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 blah. And, that is not necessarily true. I make more suits now than I ever have, mostly because of the wedding business. So it's a little bit different. When guys decided to dress more casually, especially during, all this that we had going on with COVID, that sucked. That was a challenging time for us because we weren't selling clothes. The state closed us down here in Rhode Island for 4 months. So I was like, well, PPP was great, kept my employees there, but I needed to sell clothes. So we quickly transitioned. We started bringing in all that casual stuff, all that stretchy, fabric, so that when guys are at home, they can work with, comfort. And that has been a big boom to my business. So it's allowing me to make more money in the interim time, and therefore my guys are making more money to buy.
Mark, I will tell you, Ted and I had traveled recently to Zurich for a week, and people know out there, there's a lot of money in the economy right now. As we know, it's only improving and increasing, and we're all around the C-level executive space. But the consistent theme that I heard from Teddy consistently for a week, because by the way, I don't know who can take a trip with Teddy for a week and he still likes you at the end of it. But I'll tell you, the consistent theme that I heard from him was, where the hell's the exclusivity anymore? We go to a Delta Club, Mark, and suddenly instead of there being 20,000 people there's 7,000 people on top of each other. Or you're trying to get, you're in a first class seat, which we did do that. And I'm only saying that for the length of the trip, but there is no exclusivity, no fine service. And again, we were very thankful for what we did, but there was a level of, we're spending a lot of money and we don't feel like we're in a different area getting any level of exclusivity. So I know that you provide that, and that's what we were talking about. But Mark, a big piece and a big question for ignorant people like myself: someone makes the investment, they lean on you, and I really love what you said, and I want the viewers out there to know what you said. It doesn't matter what you as the client think, what you look like. That matters a little bit. What matters most is what Mark thinks, because Mark knows better than anybody in this. And I love that you lean into that and you say, this is my reputation, so you have to present that way. But Mark, what do you say to people that know, hey, I'm going to make a large financial investment, right? And I'm going to lean on you, Mark. What is your flexibility with, I've gained a little bit of weight, I've lost a little bit of weight. How consistent is that with your clientele? So
here's an interesting thing. When you hand make clothing, you have much more flexibility. So think about this. When a machine cuts something, it uses a laser. But when a hand cuts it, it has the flaw of the human element to it. So what I mean by that is the stitch of a sewing machine is, it's very linear, it's very rigid. The stitch of a hand goes with a particular type of cadence. And therefore, it's a softer stitch. gives more. So to your point, if I'm wearing a pant with a hand done waistband on there and I gain 7 or 8 pounds, it's still going to fit me.
It's a great point. That's a great point.
So there's a real big delineation between, buying, certain made to measure clothing that's all done by machine versus ones that are done by hand, like what we do.
So, hey, real quick, Mark, we're wrapping up into our final section here as we close out. And, this is an easy, low-hanging fruit question I have to ask. You can plead the fifth, and I'm sure you won't. But is there anything for our viewers? I mean, we have over, 450, 500 episodes in Atlanta, 1,400 across the country. Anybody watching this knows Teddy himself. You grew up with Teddy. Ted's shaking his head. We can see it on the screen. Do you have a Teddy story for any of our viewers that know him well as this highly uber successful individual?
So, I mean, listen, Teddy hung around with a group of guys. Teddy's what, 3 years younger than me now, or always. He hung out with a group of guys. One was my neighbor. He goes by the name of Corky, or Steve Kaufman, and many a party where it wasn't just Teddy that would come stumbling out or crawling out of the place, but it was the majority. His crew was a very raucous crew.
Crew.
These guys, they know how to do it. They had to have a really, really good time. And, Teddy and I bumped into each other at the Delta Lounge in Atlanta.
You did.
4 or 5 years ago, doing a big project for Mercedes. And, we got to talking, and I was like, man, that's the same face, but that is not the same body that I know. So seeing him now, I'm like, okay, that's my guy. That's the dude I know.
Excellent.
What would you say is the best high school prank that you saw in your time at Heightstown High School?
So my class, we did what was called the Hawaiian luau. Okay. So our principal was Principal Wyan, W-I-A-N.
Fred Wyan. So
we created a big luau out in front. And we got shirts made up that said, Hawaiian luau, and it says his big face on there. And we did something at the school that night that, I can't tell you exactly what we did. However, it cost the school quite a bit of money, and they knew that we partook in that thing. We got in trouble to this day.
I don't think, just an FYI, guys, side note, as we wrap up, but I don't think down here in the South they do Mischief Night. Do you guys remember Mischief Night?
Yeah, hell yeah, we did.
The night before Halloween.
Yeah,
Lee. For the record, Lee. I mean, it's shocking, given the horrible stuff that the kids did in Twin Rivers and where we grew up, that any of us made it to any level whatsoever.
Should all be in prison.
I was going to say you could be making orange jumpsuits, Mark.
Yeah. If I showed you what was the interior or back of this one with the number on there, you'd understand.
Well, listen, let's take two things away from this. Number one, where can people get in touch with you online? How do they get to your store? How can people learn about this? Because I feel like our viewers in here, they all care about how they look. Of course, Lee and I are not showing it today, but they care about how they look.
Pointed. I think that's the first thing I said. Thanks for getting dressed up for me today.
Yeah. How can they get in touch with you?
Yeah, so obviously, we have a website, marcalleninc.com. So it's marcalleninc.com. And then we also have Instagram, which is Marc Allen Fine Clothiers. We have Facebook fan page. Mark Streisand is my personal Instagram and Facebook. We really work hard on putting stuff out there so that people keep coming back because the content is a little bit more fresh and new.
So here's my commitment, and I'm going to commit Lee to this. We're going to figure out somewhere to fly up to Providence, and we may make a pit stop in Boston too, and we'll come to the store. I need to get a tux. My daughter is getting married next year, and her fiance is the worst dressed guy in terms of like suits and stuff. He's a great kid. I say it on the record, great kid. Not the best dresser. So we're teaching him now. And I got to get Lee a sport coat because he too totally leaned up into what happened when our trip going to Switzerland. So we got to come up, and we're gonna have some bourbon. We'll hang out. We'll have a good time.
Listen, I have a cot in the store. You can totally stay on that one. So, but Teddy, one thing that I do a lot of work with Mercedes-Benz, and we travel all over the country. We work with them. We're their exclusive tailor. So they have a program called the Best of the Best. And we make 75 sport jackets for their top dealer principals.
Wow.
So we fly to each city, and it might only be for 10 minutes, but we make sure we fit the president or CEO or GM. So we travel. And we're not afraid of doing that. I love people coming to my store because it's a lot more of a fun experience.
Yeah.
It keeps caliber than those Tom James, fly by night type companies.
Yeah. I know. I get hit up by one once a week. They're all terrible.
Especially being on TV. I mean, they see that, and you're a total target.
All right. Well, Lee, I'm going to get some new TV sport coats when we go up there. And this has been awesome, man. I'm so happy for your success. As a fellow entrepreneur, I'm so proud of everybody that has the balls really to take the risk to try to be an entrepreneur. It's really, really hard, but super happy for your success. Everybody on here today, whether you live up north or not, you should go to the website, check it out. Always support small business owners in your community. We're the ones that drive the backbone of jobs in America. It's not the big companies. And thank you for everything you do. This is so much fun today. And continued success.
We appreciate it very much. Thanks for the opportunity. And Teddy, I look forward to seeing you real soon, and Lee, meeting you in person.
Absolutely.
All right.
I've been feeling like a shark in a shrimp tank. Big fish, small pond.